Hi, I'm Belinda, and welcome to Storytime with Belinda. Here, every story has a heartbeat, and each one is made to connect with you. Whether we're exploring a far off land or talking about something close to home, I hope you find a little piece of yourself in each tale. Let's get started, and thank you for being here. And Whispering Strings. A struggling ventriloquist named Eliza is on the hunt for a new puppet to revive her failing career. Her hunt takes her to an antique store where she finds exactly what she is looking for. The antique shop is dimly lit by a flickering chandelier filled with dusty shelves and strange artifacts. The shop is cramped, its shelves stacked with faded books, tarnished silverware, and eerie trinkets. A cracked porcelain doll stares from one corner, and a stuffed raven is perched on a nearby shelf. The air is thick with the scent of old wood and mildew. At the back of the shop, illuminated by a faint shaft of light, is a wooden puppet sitting on a threadbare velvet chair. The puppet is child-sized, with intricately carved features, hollow cheeks, piercing green glass eyes, and a painted smirk. Its clothes are Victorian era, a red velvet jacket with gold buttons and a matching bow tie. Eliza is drawn to the puppet immediately. Her fingers hover over its smooth, aged surface, as if compelled to pick it up. The shop owner, an elderly man with a stooped back and clouded eyes. You've chosen Theo. Careful with him. He has a mind of his own. Eliza laughs it off but feels an inexplicable shiver as she places Theo in her car. Back home, she quickly starts rehearsing her act with her new puppet Theo. In a few days, there's open mic night at a local comedy club, and if she is quick to get an act together, she will be able to try it out there. The comedy club is small, dimly lit, and has a rickety stage. The room is smoky and poorly lit, with faded red curtains framing the narrow stage. The wooden floorboards creak with every step, and the audience is sparse, mostly bored-looking patrons nursing cheap drinks. Eliza has gotten one of the spots and are ready to wow the few people there. She confidently walks onto the stage. It doesn't seem like the audience really notice what's going on the stage. In one hand, she is carrying a stool, and in the other, Theo. Eliza props herself up on the stool and carefully places Theo on her lap. A single spotlight is aimed at them in the center of the stage, and long distorted shadows are cast against the back wall. Theo's eyes catches the light unnaturally, gleaming like they're alive. Eliza begins her routine. Her voice is shaky as she delivers Theo's lines. But the crowd responds unusually well. Theo's comebacks are sharp, almost too quick, as though someone else is speaking through her. After the show, the club manager approaches her, impressed. You've got something special there. Let's talk about a weekly gig. Eliza feels elated but confused. She can't remember half the lines Theo said during the act, and the club is so small that it seems unlikely that a weekly gig would be a possibility. Eliza goes home after promising the manager that she will call him in a day or two and talk about the proposal. Eliza's apartment is cramped, cluttered with ventriloquist props. The living room is dimly lit by a single desk lamp, casting elongated shadows on the peeling wallpaper. Theo is placed in a chair near the window where his eyes are reflecting the faint glow of a streetlight outside. The room feels oppressive, with piles of laundry, stacks of old scripts, and scattered costume pieces adding to the chaos. Eliza plumps herself in the only available spot on the sofa. The rest of it is filled with more of the clutter she can't seem to find time to tidy. In a matter of minutes, she falls asleep. The night had been more exhausting than she realized. The next morning, she wakes up lying in her bed. She doesn't usually sleepwalk, but apparently she had done so during the night. She gets out of bed and walks to the living room. Theo is still sitting in the chair she left him in the night before. On a nearby desk lies an open notebook, pages filled with erratic handwriting. Theo is helping me. But how? Am I imagining it? I must have had a nightmare, she thought to herself as she ripped out the pages of the notebook, quickly squashed them into a ball, and threw them in the trash. The next night, Eliza wakes up to the sound of whispers. A childlike voice, soft and rhythmic, repeats her name. She sits up in bed, heart pounding. Theo is still in his chair, but his head is tilted, his eyes fixed on her. Did I leave you like that? Eliza asks, quivering. The whispers stop abruptly. Eliza convinces herself it's exhaustion, but the next morning, she finds Theo sitting on the couch, though she's certain she left him by the window. After a quick call with the manager of the comedy club, it's clear that the weekly gig would not take place there. She is to perform on a glitzy theater, and she will be paid for every performance. The following week, Eliza finds herself at the center of the big, sparkly scene with Theo on her lap and both of them engulfed in the spotlight. The stage is grand, with heavy velvet curtains and ornate gold trim. The audience is much larger now. A sea of eager faces is illuminated by the warm stage lights. Eliza sits on a stool, her movements stiff but precise, as Theo commands the crowd's attention. His carved smile seems wider than before, and his green eyes gleam under the lights. The audience roars with laughter, though Eliza looks pale and uneasy. Eliza's fame skyrockets, but she starts to feel detached during performances, like a passenger in her own body. One night, after a particularly successful show, she hears Theo speaking from his chair in the dressing room. "You need me. Without me, you're nothing," Theo says in a low, taunting voice. Eliza freezes, staring at Theo as his head slowly turns toward her. After several days of research online, Eliza starts looking through books and old newspapers. Although she has a laptop at home, she has decided to do her research at the library to get away from Theo. She stays there as long as she can, mostly to avoid going home. It is late, and the library is dark. Eliza's piled a bunch of ancient books on a table and has lit some candles that flickers every time she turns a page. The library is vast, its walls lined with towering shelves of leather-bound books. A heavy wooden table sits in the center, cluttered with open tomes and loose papers. The only light comes from a candelabra, its flames casting dancing shadows. On the table is an old newspaper clipping with a headline, "Ventriloquist's Murdered Assistant Found Inside Puppet." By reading the article and piecing together information from several books, Eliza discovers Theo's sinister origin. Decades ago, a ventriloquist used the puppet to imprison his assistant's spirit after a fatal argument. Theo feeds on the energy of those who use him, granting them temporary fame before consuming their will entirely. Eliza's apartment is dark, except for a single lamp illuminating Theo. Theo sits on a chair, his head tilted unnaturally, making him look toward the door. The lamp's yellow light highlights the cracks in his painted face and the worn fabric of his clothes. Shadows crawl across the walls, their movements mismatched with the flickering light. Eliza has contemplated a solution on her walk home, and the only way she can see working is to burn Theo. She douses him in gasoline in the middle of her living room, her hands shaking as she lights a match. "Goodbye, Theo," she says, assured that her actions will set her free in just a moment. But as she drops the match, "You think you can get rid of me? I'm the one in control." Theo's voice booms. The fire erupts, but instead of consuming Theo, it engulfs the room. Theo stands on his own, his carved limbs moving like flesh. Back at the theater, a crowd awaits another performance from the great ventriloquist Eliza. The audience applauds wildly as Eliza sits on the stool, but her face is motionless and her eyes are vacant. Theo sits on her lap, vibrant and alive, his painted smile unnervingly wide. Strings are faintly visible, stretching from Theo's limbs to Eliza's wrists and jaw. The spotlight glows intensely, casting a strange shadow that shows Eliza as the puppet. Theo stands and bows. "Let's give her a hand, folks. She couldn't have done it without me." As the audience cheers louder, Theo nods to Eliza, making her stand up and bow. "Thanks for hanging out with me, and I hope you had as much fun as I did." If you love this one, make sure to hit that like button, and don't forget to subscribe so you never miss a new tale. Got a story idea? Drop it in the comments below. I'm always looking for new adventures to share. Until next time, stay curious and keep telling your own stories.